because we're all so good at saying I'm just a farmer, when actually there's a heap of us that sit on local grower groups or community hall committees and all this stuff, and then we're really good at downplaying ourselves. I mean, it's not something I've set out to do, and if you'd asked me 3 years ago whether I could get a Nuffield Scholarship, it would have been a hard no, because I'm not one of those people who can do that. And I mean, even now I still get imposter syndrome and still pinch myself, like I said, that I get to do this.
Welcome to the Profitable Farmer podcast, where we share stories and tips to help you run a better farming business and create your very own freedom farm. If you're looking to work smarter and not harder in your farm business, welcome. You're in the right place. G'day everyone, welcome once again to Profitable Farmer. In this interview, I really wanted to advocate again for the great work of grower groups around Australia. There are so many, and I wanted again, in addition to my interview recently with Harm van Ries, and where we spoke about the great work of Birchip Cropping Group, I wanted to speak about the significant work that the Macintyre Ag Alliance are doing in southern Queensland and northern New South Wales. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Pippa Jones to you, who lives with her family on a farm near Goondiwindi in Queensland. She is a senior extension officer with the New South Wales Local Land Services and is the representative for the Northern New South Wales Drought and Innovation Hub. She's been a committee member and board member of Macintyre Ag Alliance for some years, has recently been awarded a Nuffield Scholarship, looking into the degree to which carbon farming can be good for farm business and how other countries are informing and supporting farmers to improve their carbon literacy. A really interesting conversation with Pippa, just reflecting on her off-farm career, her Nuffield Scholarship, but most importantly, I hope just to reflect on the good work that Macintyre Ag Alliance are doing. We're delighted to be partnering with Macintyre Ag Alliance, as we are with a number of other grower groups across Australia. If you haven't yet, I just want to encourage you to seek out your local grower groups and to lean into those for the reasons that you'll hear in this conversation. It's far beyond just learning how to be a good technical farmer. There can be so much good to come from being part of that community, part of that network, part of innovative and front-end research and development, but also part of the extension and training support that those great grower groups and organisations offer. I also want to encourage you to seek out the representatives from your local drought and innovation hubs and understand what those innovation hubs are offering to you in helping you become drought ready as farm businesses in your area. Pippa, thank you so much for your time. Wonderful to connect with you. And I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I do. Pippa, thanks for joining us and welcome to Profitable Farmer. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Jeremy. Thanks so much for having me.
Great to see you. How are things in southern Queensland? How are things at Goondiwindi? And would you mind giving us an insight to your family farm?
Sure. So firstly, things around Goondiwindi are pretty well. It's always good around Goondiwindi. I say it's the centre of the universe. We've just finished harvest around here, and a lot of the farmers around here have just finished harvest. It's been a really good season, which is so heartening after a few years of dry and then rain. And so it's a really good, there's really like a buzz to town. My husband and I have a farm. We're about 15 minutes out of Goondiwindi. It's a mixed farming business, so we've got cropping and we've got a breeding herd. We get someone else in to do the cropping. And we have a share farmer who does a great job, and it sort of takes the load off us having to do that. And we have a breeding herd, which we really enjoy. But we also have off-farm jobs. So we work, my husband's an engineer with the local council. I work as an extension officer with the New South Wales Local Land Services. So, we've lived here for 7 years, and despite a lot of, challenges along the way, we really love it.
Well done. How'd you come to be on the farm?
I grew up on a property east of Tamworth, sheep and cattle, and I guess we'd always wanted to get onto acres. The opportunity came up to buy this place 7 years ago, and so we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. Which it's just, I guess, the learning the whole time. You think you understand what farming is if you grow up on a farm, and then suddenly having to manage it yourself and deal with droughts and flooding and a whole lot of things you'd never had to think about. It's been an incredible learning journey, but I think I love that I get to learn all the time on farming. So, it's great.
Oh, that's awesome. Our story is similar. I grew up on a farm south of Wagga, and like you, arrived back to this farm, and we took it on 15 years ago. We actually leased it out for 7 years, so we've only been running this farm ourselves for a similar time. And it's a whole different level of learning, isn't it?
I know, but it's really cool. I mean, I think we're really lucky that we get to be in these positions, to have a go and have supportive people around us to make a go of it. So it's great.
You remind me of just how many farming families are just achieving so much. Like, so many people out there are running really significant farms, but it's also, holding down at least one significant off-farm career or opportunity. Well done. Pretty amazing family, Pippa.
I think my husband and I make an incredible team. We've got 2 little kids as well, so it's definitely teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I really want to do in this, amongst other things, is just speak about Macintyre Ag and the impact that project is having on your region and in your community. But before we do get into that, congratulations on your recent Nuffield Scholarship. What an incredible achievement.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm 12 months into it now, and I still pinch myself that I get to do this and travel and learn from people overseas and in Australia, and it's an incredible privilege and opportunity. So it's not lost on me, but thank you very much.
And I think you're dusting off a bit of jet lag at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah. I got back from 6 weeks overseas on a Nuffield organised trip 3 days ago. So I'm a whole lot better today than I was yesterday. I'll just say that.
Would you mind speaking to that trip specifically? And then I'd love to hear about the broader project.
Yeah. So the 6 weeks I had away, 5 weeks of it is it's a Nuffield Australia initiative called the Global Focus Program. And it's in my group, there were 12 of us from 5 different countries around the world, mostly Australians, but also from America, the Netherlands, the UK and New Zealand. And we started in Borneo and travelled to Taiwan, Japan, Poland, and finished in Italy. And the trip is essentially you immerse yourself in the culture, the agriculture in these countries, and get insights into how it works over there that you wouldn't otherwise have if it weren't for this opportunity through Nuffield. So it's been a whirlwind. It's been full on. I'm exhausted still, and I'm still processing what I learned, but it's been incredible.
What an amazing part of the world to tour to. What are some of your early reflections? I
think you just get these insights into what it means to be a farmer in some of these countries that they're just sort of light bulb moments. I think sometimes we're really quick to judge if you're in, let's say, Italy and there's subsidies everywhere, or you're in Japan and the average size of a farm is 1 hectare. And it's actually when you get in there and you realise that actually the role that agriculture plays in each of these countries is different, and they all have different priorities, but actually at the end of the day, there's so many similarities to what we do, even if the scale and the climate and culture is different. And it just, I'm still processing it, but I think it's just been incredible. And I think there's a lot to learn from trying to see other perspectives around the world.
Has your perspective, is it changing for being part of Nuffield?
I think so, yeah. It's very easy when we get onto our day-to-day and we get busy with life that we just sort of see what's in front of us or what's happening in our region, or even what's just happening because you see the local news and nationally or within your state. And I think just getting a glimpse into why subsidies exist in the first place and how, in some cases, the existence of subsidies, for example, means that rural communities in some countries still exist, because without them, those communities probably wouldn't still be there. Just having those sorts of insights is really valuable, and I'd like to think that I hold on to some of those learnings and make decisions and continue to be informed because of that.
Thank you. Your project, or your Nuffield Scholarship, would you mind speaking to what your topic is and how your last 12 months have been?
Yeah. So when you apply for a Nuffield Scholarship, you are required to apply and choose a topic that you're going to study as part of your personal travel. My topic is around whether measuring carbon on farm is good for business, but also the Extension Officer in me wants to know what is the support for farmers around the world to learn about carbon and make those decisions. It has not been it's not an easy topic. It's really complex, but it's been really interesting to travel and talk to farmers, talk to consultants, researchers, government, just about what is driving them, what some of their priorities are, some of their issues. But it's funny, people ask me what's my one takeaway, and as much as I hate to say it, I feel like my takeaway is that the whole world is confused sometimes with this stuff. It's not just us, which is also makes me feel a little better. We're not the only ones who are struggling with this content.
Well, it's a new market and it's a new concept still relatively, and I think we're all still grappling with it, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it's also something that you think you're getting your head around some of it, and then you talk to someone else about something else, and suddenly this whole new world that you hadn't even considered exists, and there's 1,000 rabbit holes you can go down, and it's easy to get overwhelmed. So it's really important to sort of focus on the stuff that you can change or that you can do on farm. I think is, for me as a farmer, that's the stuff that I'm really trying to hone in on.
Do you see any other nations more progressed on this conversation and on the rollout of this to their farmers than we are?
I wouldn't say more progressed. I think it was interesting. I was in the UK last week, and farmers there are equally sceptical about aspects of carbon farming or carbon markets or emissions reductions as we are. I feel like they might, in the UK, because of their regulations, have more businesses that are asking for emissions data from their farmers. But no, there's no standout nation. I feel like it's a mixed bag across a lot of different places. I think each nation is definitely taking steps to meet those sort of net zero goals or meet the Paris Agreement rules. But I think it's not like there was one standout country that I went, you guys are doing a great job. I feel like there was, a lot to... I think actually my takeaway is Australia's actually doing a really good job. I know there's probably a lot of farmers that won't agree with me on that, but from what I've seen, there are programs in place to support farmers. Our ACU scheme is one of the few in the world that has so much rigour behind it. I think we can probably stop giving ourselves a hard time.
What is the end game for you with your Nuffield? Is there an outcome that you're aiming for, or something that you really do hope to achieve?
Yeah, I think I just want people to engage. I think it's not a space that we can just sort of put our heads in the sand and think this is going away. So regardless of your motivations or your priorities or your business, I just think engage where it works for you, where it works for your business, because from what I've seen, it's not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere. And have you got any examples locally of people who have made it work in their business and being successful in terms of driving new revenue and new profit?
Locally, I know farmers who have done soil carbon projects and say it's the best thing they've ever done because it does create a revenue stream, and it has meant that they've improved productivity because they've improved soil health and ground cover, etc. I also know that there are farmers who know their numbers as far as emissions data, having used a carbon calculator, and because of that, they've been able to make changes on farm about, or it's just informed their decisions. Just knowing the numbers has been helpful. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yep. So I'm keen to do a more in-depth deep dive through this podcast into the carbon conversation. So I might come and tap on your shoulder again. We can go a lot deeper into that at another time, perhaps, Pippa.
Yeah.
Your off-farm career with New South Wales Local Land Services, I always get that wrong. Would you mind speaking to that role and what your focus is through that career?
Yeah. So I've worked with Local Land Services for nearly 11 years now, always been involved with the natural resource management side of our organisation, so working with farmers to support them to improve or protect or manage natural resources on farm. So whether that's vegetation management, looking after the vegetation on farm, soil health, ground cover, a whole range of things, that controlling weeds in areas where you're impacting habitat, for example, for threatened species. That's always been my role. I still work in that team, but I've recently taken on the role within Local Land Services as the node manager for the Northwest New South Wales region of the Southern Queensland, Northern New South Wales Innovation Hub, which is a mouthful, but is essentially one of 8 hubs around Australia that are funded to improve drought resilience and preparedness of farmers. So, yeah, I'm excited to be in this role.
So what do we need to know about the good work that the innovation hubs are doing in helping farmers get proactive and ahead of the game with drought and other natural disasters in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I probably can only speak to the Southern Queensland or the New South Wales hub that I'm in. However, I think the hubs are playing a role of making sure that the events or activities that we're rolling out to farmers are fit for purpose, are worthwhile, and are actually making a difference. So I guess I'd say if you don't know who your local innovation hub contact is, it's worth getting in touch and finding out what is going on. I know in my part of the world, the Innovation Hub has partnered with organisations like the Macintyre Ag Alliance and has a partnership with Local Land Services as well to try and just add value to activities and events that really benefit farmers around drought. And I mean, at the end of the day, there's so much that links to drought. We're not just talking about improving how you feed your stock when it's dry. There's so much that can be focused on so that farmers can make really good decisions coming into drought and equally coming out of drought and in those good periods, so that when drought comes back, because it always will, that we're better prepared for it. So
amazing. Thank you. So turning our attention to the Macintyre Ag Alliance, Farm Owners Academy is really proud to be a partner to the Mac Ag Alliance, and we're actively throwing our support behind a number of other grower groups across Australia. I think people that are part of grower groups locally tend to be the real information-hungry, growth-oriented, progressive farmers in our regions. Would you mind speaking to the backstory to Macintyre Ag, how it came to be and even your involvement with it over the years, Pippa?
Sure. So Macintyre Ag Alliance actually started out as the Wagamba Land Care Group. The Wagamba region was originally a local government area around Goondiwindi, and so in 1989, local farmers got together and created the Wagamba Land Care Group and focused on pest control and soil erosion mitigation and pasture management. That developed over the years, and in 2020, the group had a rebrand to the Macintyre Ag Alliance, continuing to work with farmers and have a membership base. I've stepped back this year, but I have been on the committee up until the start of this year. And I guess the group is run by farmers for farmers. So the committee they're all local farmers. So they have the best interests of our local community, and they've got the knowledge of the local community. So they've been successful in applying for grants and running some really successful field days over the last few years and events to really build that capacity of the local farmers to try new things, because it's all well and good to see new things, but you've got to have the confidence to give it a go as well. So it's really about building that confidence and those networks, which is, I think, one of the best parts about Mac Ag. It's just this really proactive, and a young group. The committee is a fantastic group of people, and they're really engaged, and they just want to roll out some really good projects to have really good outcomes.
What are some of the highlights of the last few years that you've seen the Mac Ag community achieve?
Yeah. For me, one of the big ones, they have the last 3 years, and it's one again next year, they've held a 2-day agribusiness summit in Goondiwindi, and then so one day is a day in Goondiwindi, and then the next day is out in the field. And these events attract really big numbers, and they've been so successful. They've been talking about everything from, regenerative ag, soil carbon, succession planning, financial literacy, mental health awareness, emotional intelligence. It's every year it sort of changes, but those events are a huge thing for a little volunteer group with one part-time staff member, or two part-time staff members, to pull off. And they do such a good job every year. And I was really sad this year I was away, so missed this year. So I'm really looking forward to what they're doing next year and coming along. And I think there's a lot of interest in soil health in our region, for example, as there is everywhere. So a lot of the events that I've seen recently have really been about how do you build awareness of and skills and knowledge and confidence in undertaking activities that might build your soil health around, whether it's multi-species pastures or if that's biofertilizers or whatever it is. I think Mac Ag have their finger on the pulse and are doing some really good events in that area.
I'm just listening to that spectrum of topics that summit covered, from succession to mindset and mental health, right through to soil carbon and soil health. It's just such a diverse range of topics that you're contributing as a group to the farmers in your area. I just so often think that farming is, and it can be, a really lonely place where you can be head down and so busy within your boundary fences and not participate in groups like this and get exposure to some of those really important topics. I mean, for you and your family, how would farming be if you weren't involved in a group like that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine not having access to local farmers and a local network. I'm really fortunate that I work in the industry as well, so I am able to sort of build networks through that. But locally, it just the network side of Mac Ag, and knowing that you can there's a safe place to ask questions if you're not really sure. I mean, the group has over 100 paying members, which is pretty good for, I guess, grower groups at the moment. It's a real testament to the committee and to the hard work, and I think the vision as well of them to make sure that what they're doing is what we want as farmers. And so because it is, they've got this amazing engagement, and I think we're all the better for it.
What impact have you seen that project have on individual farming families in your region?
I think one impact I think I've seen is, I guess, there's a bit of a regenerative ag focus in a lot of what Mac Ag is doing at the moment and has done for the last few years. And when I talk about regen ag, I'm talking about the spectrum from like just improving your ground cover. So I'm not talking about a very narrow set of activities here. It's really broad. And I think when it became clear that this was something that a lot of us were interested in and a lot of us were trying, you didn't feel like you were alone in doing it. Like you knew that there were other people out there having a go or had been doing it for a while, and that you had access to these people to talk to. I think for me, that's one of the wins is that you know that there's no such thing as a stupid question, and actually what you're sort of starting to hear and think about for your farm, a whole lot of other people are doing too. So I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that confidence that you mentioned that it can bring for collaborating and hearing, the experience of others sort of on the same journey can be pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So I realise that you've stepped off the leadership committee, but where is Mac Ag off to? What are some of the focus points and goals for Macintyre Ag Alliance over the next few years?
So probably for the next few years, it is still a bit of there are some field days that they've had funding for that they will deliver on. And as I said, I'm really looking forward to the 2-day Agribusiness Summit. They've got Dylan Alcott speaking at that event, which will be incredible. I think there's a dinner that he's involved with. And so for me, that's what I'm looking forward to. And the field days is something that they have got some grants for, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they're going with those. And I guess longer term, there might be some R&D opportunities as well. But I guess that's up to the committee, because at the end of the day, it's volunteer. And so committees take time. And as much as we love them, like a lot of the committee also have young families, and some of them also have off-farm income as well as working on the farm. So I guess it's about balancing that sort of stuff, isn't it? It's like you want to get the best outcomes for your group and for your community, but you also need to consider what's best for you. So I think what they're doing at the moment is incredible, and hats off to them.
Who can become a member? If I'm interested in those topics and I happen to farm in southern New South Wales, can I still be an active member of MAC?
Yeah, there's definitely, there's members from, I think, northern Queensland, further afield than just the Goondiwindi region, definitely. And the other thing is Mac Ag, I talk about Goondiwindi, but we are a cross-border community. Like that line, the Macintyre River is the border, but that actually doesn't mean a lot when you live here. So loads of our members are from both sides of the border, Queensland and New South Wales, and we welcome anyone who wants to come and join, because I think there's a lot of value in being involved in these grower groups. So like you said earlier, they can jump onto the Macintyre Ag Alliance website and join.
So we'll share those details in the show notes. How much collaboration is there between the various grower groups that exist across Australia in your experience? I'm sure that we Southerners can learn so much about a lot of those topics that you talk about from the great practices that northern New South Wales and central Queenslanders. Do you find that the Mac Ag crew can learn a huge amount by collaborating with people further north and south and vice versa?
That's a really good question. I think there's opportunities that we can all learn from one another. I'm not sure how much it happens at the moment, and I think it probably does come back to that capacity of committees to do that, definitely in Queensland groups anyway. But I think if there are opportunities to collaborate, then it's definitely a bonus. I'm through my work with Local Land Services, there's some fantastic land care groups in the Northwest region, one in Tamworth and then a Northern Slopes Land Care Association as well. And I think they all, can contribute to doing better things in their communities by collaborating and building. And even if that's collaborating with like the Southern Queensland, Northern New South Wales Drought Hub in rolling out of events or activities or just extending information. It's all useful. It's all helpful.
So, Pippa, have you always been proactive in seeking out leadership roles and positions in industry. I just sort of reflect that here you are, you're probably holding 4 or 5 now, plus a Nuffield scholarship with a busy farm and a young family. Have you always sought out leadership opportunities?
Definitely not. I actually still struggle with the idea of the word leader and me in the same sentence. And I guess originally, like I joined the Macintyre Ag Alliance committee. It's probably one of the first committees I'd been on. And sort of stepping into those executive roles makes you have to make decisions for the committee and for the community that maybe subconsciously make you think that there's other paths you can follow than just a farmer, because we're all so good at saying I'm just a farmer, when actually there's a heap of us that sit on local grower groups or community hall committees and all this stuff, and then we're really good at downplaying ourselves. I mean, it's not something I've set out to do, and if you'd asked me 3 years ago whether I could get a Nuffield scholarship, it would have been a hard no, because I'm not one of those people who can do that. And I mean, even now I still get imposter syndrome and still pinch myself, like I said, that I get to do this. But I think one of the great things about Nuffield, and just from being in committees like Macintyre Ag, is that you can start to back yourself a little bit and know that you've got your peers around you to back you too. And it's really empowering. I remember someone asked me when I first got my Nuffield scholarship what I got out of it. I'm like, confidence. Like, I'm not saying that I wasn't a confident person before, but you sort of, if you can back yourself and believe in what you're saying, because chances are there's other people that believe in what you're saying too, they might just not be saying it. So yeah, it's been a huge learning for me, I think, to just accept that, yeah, maybe I am a leader, and even though I say that and it sits really uncomfortably, and maybe I need to own that.
So isn't it interesting that groups like Macintyre Ag Alliance come together with a view to focus on pastures and soil and carbon and pests and weeds and diseases and all those things, but the outcome is that it gives individual members within those communities a deeper level of confidence about how they best move forward in business and as leaders. Do you reckon Mac Ag's played a part, and your leadership role with Mac Ag has played a part in you having the conviction then to apply for a Nuffield?
I think it's definitely played a role, because you sort of work out that, yeah, I've got an opinion and I think what I've got to say is actually right, and so maybe I should say it. And even if you start in the local community group or your local grower group, there's value in that, and yeah, just believe in what it is you're trying to do and what you're trying to say, and go from there. And a friend of mine recently, someone who's in my Nuffield group, said, if you sort of believe in a direction you're going, you'll go that way. And I've taken that on board a bit.
I sort of want to put it out there, and I'm keen for your comment on this, that we've all got a bigger leadership role to play in industry than I think we do. And so often we can be so focused on the crops or the sheep or the cattle or the pastures or whatever, and getting it done for our family. But we forget that the point of business and entrepreneurship and life is to serve others and make an impact. A mentor of mine talked about that the point of entrepreneurship is to create a legacy beyond your lifetime. Mm-hmm. And that can be our farms for our families, but it can also be a deeper question around how it is that you want to be remembered for the impact you've made outside of your farm and in community and in industry. And I think it's a really important question that we stop and consider. What is the impact that I want to have on my community and on this industry in my lifetime?
Yeah, that's really important. And yeah, like you said, we get caught up in what's happening on farm or with the kids, or whether it's going to rain next week. And I think we can lose sight that we can have a bigger impact. Someone said to me earlier this year, that decisions are made by those who show up. so show up. And I think of that a lot. And another line I think of a lot, which was a mentor said to me last year before I'd even applied for my Nuffield Scholarship. He said, throw the hook out far. And so when you're feeling really uncomfortable or in new positions, I sort of think of that, because I think it's a good thing to keep in mind.
Throw the hook out far?
Yeah.
What did that mentor mean by that, do you think?
He meant like don't go for the easy stuff all the time. Like put yourself out there, see what you can catch. Yeah.
How is it for you having that balance of an off-farm leadership pursuit and a Nuffield project in complement to the family farm?
I won't lie, this year's been a lot. I've travelled for 14 weeks for my Nuffield Scholarship in the last 9 months or 8 months. But I think it's about, I talked about earlier about having a team. So my husband and I are a team about everything we do on the farm and everything we do with our family. So that's really important to me. And I think with the farm, we make the farm work for us. We don't work for the farm. So yes, after work or on weekends, we're often doing cattle work, or we're fixing fences, or we're calling the vet during work hours, or whatever it would be. But we just make it work for us and not the other way around. And I think as well we enjoy what we do. So if you enjoy what you do, it's not really work. So that's just as important, if not more.
The other distinction that comes up for me in your comments, Pippa, is there's more ways to skin the farming cat than perhaps we think there are. I think a lot of people think they have to do their own cropping, they have to run their own livestock, they have to do conventional farming, which can be a lot more time-consuming and intensive, and maybe get in the way of us pursuing, an off-farm interest or leadership opportunity. I know here, because I don't have the bandwidth with Jane to run a comprehensive cropping program and sheep enterprise, which is probably conventional for this area. We're running a small sheep enterprise, but we've just got wall-to-wall dairy agistment heifers on the other 60% of our farm, rather than me having to fork out and be consumed by the construct of a complex cropping enterprise. And that gives me the freedom to run a more simple business model and pursue off-farm interests. And I think you've done the same, perhaps, by having a sharecropper oversee and run your cropping program for you, just so that you've got time and space to pursue off-farm careers. Yeah. Obviously, a really conscious decision to keep the farm business model simple and concise so that you can have balance.
Yeah, 100%. We actually look at what we've got, and we think we are quite lucky to be in the position that we are in. And I think but it also comes with just maintaining good relationships with the people that you work with. So whether that's the share farmer or the contractors that come in to plant, because we're only a small farm, and so if we're getting contractors in, we need them to come back. And so just maintaining good relationships as well is key.
Perfect. Pippa, thank you so much for your time. It's just amazing to just hear about your off-farm career and your Nuffield project and the key sort of insights that come from those leadership opportunities. But also it's really compelling just to be able to share the great work that the Macintyre Ag Alliance have done and are doing, and to make sure that our listeners are aware of not just what Mac Ag are doing, but the importance of them looking out both for their local grower groups, and just can't emphasise enough the value. I hope it's come out of this conversation, the value of actively being a contributor and a participant in your grower groups in your local areas. But also, Pippa mentioned the Drought and Innovation Hubs that are across Australia now and doing really great work, helping us get set to be prepared for drought and other adversities that might be in our future. So encourage you to make sure you do know who your local representatives are, and that you reach out to understand what's happening in those innovation hubs as well as those grower groups in your area. Pippa, have you got a final comment?
No, I just thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk today. I hope someone finds it useful, something. that I've said. And to be honest as well, I'd actually say that a Nuffield Scholarship is for everyday people. And so if you are thinking that it's something you're interested in, please apply, because the opportunities that come out of it are amazing, and I can't speak highly enough of it because it's a great program. And yeah, give it a go.
It is an institution that is making a massive impact locally and globally. And I was lucky enough to interview Jim Gelch on this podcast a few months ago. So I just encourage people, if you want to learn more about Nuffield and the great work that they do, make sure you just seek out that podcast interview as well. But Pippa, congratulations on your involvement with Macintyre Ag Alliance, and congratulations on all you're doing in industry and absolutely with your Nuffield Scholarship. Can't wait to hear how that plays out and what your findings are on the other side of that project.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for your time, Pippa. And there you have it, folks. Pippa, thank you for your reflection and your openness, and for sharing what you're up to off farm with the Drought and Innovation Hub and with LLS, with your Nuffield Scholarship. Well done on that. And also congratulations with Macintyre Ag Alliance and that leadership team on all that you're achieving for your area and for members across northern New South Wales and southern Queensland. On reflection, I guess one of the key things that comes out of that for me is perhaps we've got a bigger leadership role to play in community and in industry than we think we do. And I think it's really important to sit down and reflect on what's the impact that I want to have beyond my farm in my career, and what can I do to free up and even simplify my farm business model so that I can have balance between farm and compelling off-farm pursuits that are of real passion and interest for you. I think Pippa's a great example with her husband, of simplifying and managing their farm business in a way that allows them to have really compelling and successful off-farm careers and to pursue really meaningful projects like that Pippa is with Nuffield. Thanks for your comments about Macintyre Ag Alliance and about the innovation hubs, and also about Nuffield, Pippa. 3 great initiatives in support of farming families. I'll share show notes for those 3 institutions. Thanks, Pippa, for your time. I hope you found this interview interesting. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and bye for now. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Profitable Farmer podcast by Farm Owners Academy. If you're new to this show, be sure to follow us. If you've been a long-time listener, let your friends know about us, or come continue the conversation in the Profitable Farmer Facebook group. All the best as you grow your business and create your freedom farm. Until next time, keep being incredible.